Hi everyone, I'm April and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. I'm coming to you from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, which is just to the north and west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I usually from time to time mention what I do for a living, and it's always been 911 operator. But if you've been watching my podcast for any length of time, you will know, especially since the last couple, you will know that I have since retired. I retired at the very end of August, and I gotta say that retirement has me lost. I don't know what to do with myself. It's been an entire month, and I feel like I've slept 90% of the time. I have mentioned that I do have to work to supplement my bills and whatever. So I have been looking for jobs here and there. I actually just got in with a temp agency, and I was applying for anything and everything just because I didn't know what I'd be qualified for. I did get an interview for it's an insurance company, a medical insurance company, and basically I would be assisting with account claims and stuff like that. I did interview there, and I gotta tell you, most nerve-wracking thing ever, because I haven't interviewed in 18 years. Very scary. I had to ask my kids what to wear, and they gave me some example questions and all kinds of stuff, so I was very, very nervous. And then I didn't hear from them for weeks, so I thought, oh, I must have blown it. Okay, the lady at the temp agency has been looking for other positions for me, and in the meantime I finally got a call back from that insurance company, so I have a tentative hire date with them. So that's coming up now sometime toward the end of this month, so we'll see how that goes. Or if something better comes along through the temp agency. I don't know. I'm kind of not sure about the temp agency because, you know, you work for them, and then if the company that they put you with likes you, then they may or may not hire you full time. So I'm kind of scared of that. And the one with the insurance is directly through that company. That's not through a temp agency. So it feels a little more stable. And you know me, I'm all about having stability and being sure of what's going on in my future. So I don't know, I may just stick with that one, who knows. But for right now, the prospects are looking great. Yes, this is primarily a knitting podcast. I do talk mostly about my knitting and yarn fascination, all of the things that I make and plan to make. Before I get into that, I'm going to touch on one last thing. In my last podcast, and thank you for anyone who has returned, any new subscribers. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me for a little bit. One more thing that I wanted to touch on before I get into all of the nitty stuff, the nitty gritty, is I had mentioned that I was feeling depressed, anxious. My anxiety had really hit, and I talked to my doctor, and they put me on some medication, and I felt like the dosage might need to be adjusted. And we did that. My doctor and I did talk about the dosage. We went ahead and cut it in half. It took away all the jitteriness, but it also kept the incessant crying at bay. So the anxiety is a little less. I feel like I'm back to normal. I still have I need to have certain things a certain way, you know, and my normal worries and fears, but it's not overwhelming. It's not just taking all of my spirit out of me. So I feel good. I'm happy about that. I'm glad we found a dosage that worked with the medication that I was familiar with, as opposed to having to keep trying several different things to get it to work. So I'm pleased with that. So that's going good. So I'm gonna get into all the knitting stuff now. I promise. But that is a little bit about me. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with finished objects because I have a few of them, quite a few of them actually. Let's start with I think I showed you all these socks. This was yarn that I had gotten from Sock Obsession, and I was alternating the skeins. I had 2 skeins of DK weight, and it was their colorway River of Wine, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it, and I made a pair of shorty socks. And don't judge me for my ends, because my ends are all out, and all of these finished objects, geez, I don't know how to speak. All these finished objects have their ends hanging all out, so don't judge. So these are the socks I finished. I don't have them on sock blockers because even though I moved all my stuff, hold on, I got an alarm yelling at me. Boom. Okay, so I don't know where my sock blockers are. I moved all my stuff, rearranged everything, and those are things I can't find. Go figure. So these are the socks, and this is the Fabulous yarn. They're shorties. I would say this is about almost a 2-inch cuff. I did the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I mentioned this before, it was I don't know if that's what it's called, but I say Skype. Basically the stitch pattern is you slip the first stitch, knit the next stitch, yarn over, and then pass that slip stitch over both the knit and the yarn over, and it creates this lovely fabric, and it's got a little bit of a stretch to it. It's not like a lot of slipped stitch patterns that are not so forgiving, but it worked. I think that I could have gone down a couple of stitches, or maybe even a needle size, to make these just a tad bit tighter. They're not floppy, they fit well. I just think that I would have liked them just a little bit snugger, but they do fit well. So you can see the difference that that Skype pattern does, how it plays with the colors, and it's so pretty. This yarn is absolutely gorgeous, and I ended up using not very much of the 2 DK weight skeins. I did a rounded toe on this one, which I love. The only thing is, because I dropped one of the socks. Every time I drop something. The only thing is, I don't think that I started it as beautifully as I could have, because I have a little hole on the tip of my sock, which is fine. It'll close up when I weave in this end. Not a big deal. But I think I probably could have done it a little cleaner. But I love it, and I had to make something else with this yarn, so I did. I wasn't sure if I wanted a beanie or a cowl, and because I loved that stitch pattern so much, I don't remember what needle size I used. I want to say a 5, but I don't know. I can't remember. Might have been a 4 for these socks. I don't remember. But anyway, I decided to use an 8 and make it a little looser, but I still did the same stitch pattern for a cowl. And this hasn't been blocked. The ends haven't been tucked in. And the tendency of this wants to curl like that, which is fine. I'm thinking when I do finally wash and block it, that I'm gonna actually lay it and block it folded backward, so that the tendency that it has to curl this way will kind of be counteracted, I'm hoping, if I block it like this. Not sharp so that it has like a crease, but just enough so that it'll hopefully lay flat by the time it's done blocking. But I did do alternating skeins again, and that same Skype pattern, which I adore. And as you can see, it's a very narrow cowl, and it's only about 40 inches around. I would say this is maybe 3 inches wide and 40 inches around, but which is fine. It'll look good once it's blocked. And I do love the back side of this Skype pattern. It's almost like a impressionist watercolor kind of feel to it. I really, really like it. So I don't have a problem wearing it like this, where the backside may show. But if it gets really cold, then I can just flip it over and have that there, and maybe even a little bit of the backside ends, backside showing. So I think it'll work perfect, and I do like my cowls to be a little bit closer fit. So and the reason why I did this is because I did want to make a beanie too, so I sacrificed height so that I could have a beanie. And this is what I came up with. I did, again, on a size 8, the same Skype pattern. I just fell in love with this stitch, and it's so easy to work, and it's so pretty. I love it. I think I'm gonna try to write this pattern up. It works. I imagine it's gonna work really well with any highly variegated yarn. You know, those colors that you just buy and you're like, it's fabulous, and then you don't know what to do with it because it's so wild. Beanie, and I love it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and write this up. And also, if you can tell, all of the slips kind of line up and they make a column, but when I did the decreases in the crown, they started to stagger a little bit, which is understandable, but it's really hard to see in the highly variegated yarn that they're not stacked anymore, because the slips are just everywhere and the colors are so wild that it kind of hides that fact a little bit, which is why I think this would be recommended for a highly variegated yarn. I think they would be a little more noticeable. The decreases will be a little bit more noticeable in a semi-solid or solid color. I mean, which is fine, but just this particular stitch pattern I think goes so well with a highly variegated yarn. I could put this on for you. And I think actually when I write it up, I'm gonna make it shorter, because I think I'm gonna take out a couple of rows of this, which you can wear it low. I wouldn't mind wearing it low. It's a little too long. I think I'm gonna take maybe 3 or 4 rows out of what I prescribed for the ribbing, and maybe take out and start my decreases a little bit sooner. But other than that, it fits perfect. You know, and you can also flip it up if you want to, I guess, if I didn't really feel like changing it. But I am not a professional hat wearer, and I don't feel like I look good in them, but it is gonna keep me warm. Oh, that's cute. But it's gonna keep me warm, and I love it. So, you know, I'm trying to learn to embrace wearing things that are not necessarily uber flattering on me. I want to wear something that's functional and is pretty in its own right, not necessarily flattering on me. Not that I don't want to have something flattering. I've never worn hats, and in the last few years I've really wanted to, and I think I've had it in my head that I don't look good in hats. I feel like they're not flattering on me, but at the same time I want to wear them. So I'm trying to get over that weird little thing. So that's that, and that was, again, Sock Obsession Yarns. They have their own website, and this was their DK base. River of Wine was the colorway. So, speaking of things that are very much not flattering, so if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that I decided that I wanted to do the Agnes pullover. I don't know if they call it a pullover or a sweater, but it's a bulky weight, and I believe I talked about this. It's a bulky weight sweater. It's very easy, top down raglan. I've never done this before, and especially for my size and because of my shape, it's a little bit daunting for me to do a pullover, because of, you know, I carry a lot of my weight in the front, in my belly, as well as my this area that I can't think of, bust. So So anyway, so I wanted to do the Agnes pullover, but I don't have chunky in enough yarn, fluff in my eye. I don't have enough bulky weight yarn to make a full sweater, so I decided to hold 3 yarns together, which I showed you last time, was a bamboo tencel lace weight, and there was a fingering, I think it was silk and alpaca. It was the diadem from Knit Picks. And then the last one was some old discontinued Knit Picks DK merino, and so that added up to a chunky. And the reason why I put those 3 together at all was because I didn't like any of them, and I thought, well, maybe they'll turn into something okay if I put them together, and even if it comes out ugly, whatever, I want to try this sweater. I want to see what a pullover is going to look like on me, and if it's even worth me trying to make them, or just stick to shawls and maybe just using cardigans or something. So I went ahead and made it, and it went by so fast. I had a good time doing it, and I did run out of colors, so of the DK colors quite a bit, so I had to switch things off. And you can see it's significant, but it's ugly. It's ugly, but it fits. It's wearable. It's comfortable. It's super cozy and warm. But this is in the fugly realm. This is, oh my god. So okay, that's Aggie, and she has been going into the corner. She'll find any corner in the house and she'll yowl like that, just staring at the corner and yowling, and I don't know what it is. So if you hear the yowling, it's my old geriatric cat having a moment. It's okay, Aggie, it's okay. So this is the top part before I ran out of that teal color, which was the fingering weight. So then I found I had some of the same diadem in a darker jade green, and that's the first color change. Then I ran out of the DK and I had to substitute with some other Knit Picks, and you can see there's a color change right here. There's a line kind of here where the green is slightly bluer than the other green, and for some reason at the bottom you can see more how the lace weight pulls, because the DK and the fingering were solid colors, and up here you can't tell that so much that the lace weight has any kind of pulling effect, but for whatever reason down here you can see the colors spiraling. It's very strange. It's cool. Very strange though. But it fits. It's long. I think the Agnes sweater was a cropped, like just above your natural waist, just right, or maybe right at your natural waist. I went ahead and made this sort of tunic length, just maybe an inch or so below the waist, maybe 2 inches below the waistline, just because I'm bigger in front and I need things covered, and I don't wear anything like high-waisted dresses or skirts where it would look cute for me to wear a cropped top. So I'll put in a picture here, not a very good picture because I'm not good at photographing myself wearing things, and please excuse my messy room, but I'll put a picture here of me wearing it. I think there's even one part of it you can see I still have these on. My ends are hanging out, whatever. And the reason why these are still on is because after I put it on, I decided that it comes to about here. And I think that I want to add another couple of inches. So I haven't tucked in ends on this for that reason. I think I want to add length to the sleeves. So I still have all my markers and stuff. But it's funny because it's a strange photo. It really is. And it is an ugly sweater. It's so ugly, but it fits. It was an experiment. It looks decent. As far as shaping, it looks good on me. Despite the fact that I'm wearing a sports bra, and that does no good for a bigger boobed person at all. It just becomes a uniboob and it's not cute. It's just not cute. But I'm sure that in a regular bra it would look better. But I wasn't in the mood. I've been on retirement for a month and sports bras are where it's at, flattering or not. But anyway, oh my god, this episode is so weird. I am sorry. It fits. Everything came out good. I did the underarm really well. I did the sleeves fit just perfect. I love it. I love how it fits, other than the sleeve length. I did make the neck a little bit wider than what they had called for. So the neck will hit me, I think, right about here as opposed to up here. So it kind of comes down just a little bit, but that's the only modification that I did on it. That and that it's not a solid color. But I love it. It's going to be great for around the house, you know, maybe sitting in the backyard on a crisp morning, drinking my tea and knitting outside and just throwing this on. You know, going for a walk to the park or something. It's not going to be something I'm going to wear to work. Unless they're having an ugly sweater party for Christmas. Then maybe I'll pull this out. But for the most part, that is going to be around the house. Yeah, so that was that. That was the other whip that I did. And that actually worked out, knit up really, really quickly. The only thing that I had to wait for was when I had to order some more of the DK, and that shipped super quick. So, yay. Okay, so this other one is super pretty, and I love it. It is a shawl that I have been working on for a little bit. I think I showed you. I don't have the book here. It's way over there. But it's the yellow that I had gotten. The yarn is the yellow that I had gotten from Maker's Haven. She dyed the yellow yarn to go with the book cover of her On Luna Time. I think that's what it's called. She just released a second book, so now I don't know if I'm getting the two titles confused, but I think it's On Luna Time. Is that it? Yes, On Luna Time. And so that was the yellow that came with her book box. And these other two colors are stash yarns that I happen to have that very closely resemble the other colors on her book cover. So I was super, super excited, and this was a pattern that I had come up with. I think I showed you a bigger version in a DK weight several episodes ago. It was like a light lavender kind of color. I had done that one, and it was a much bigger shawl. This one I made, it's smaller. I can still wear it over my shoulders if I wanted to, but I think this one is going to be more this way, and all of the colors are visible, and it's super pretty. And we all know that yellow is not my favorite color, but as I've said repeatedly, yellow is something that I can use as an accent. Blues and greens are more my bag, and yellow is an accent, and I think it works really well, and it looked so pretty on her book cover. Because I'm excited for the second book, and it's just sweet teen romance. It's not, you know, there are some teen romances that get a little hot and heavy, and not my thing. It's why I don't like reading adult romances. But this one is just a very sweet teen romance, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm really excited to read the second one. So that one is ready and gonna come to me soon. I'm super, super excited. So that was another whip down. I'm telling you, I've had so much time on my hands ever since I started taking my medication at the right dosage and feeling better and being on retirement. I've had so much time on my hands to knit like a mad person. It's crazy. So this last FO, not the last thing I'm going to show you, but my last FO is another shawl, and I actually thought this was going to be a lot bigger than it turned out, and I haven't blocked it, but I still don't think that this, even with blocking, I don't think that the width is going to come out anywhere near what it looked like in the photo. And I followed it exactly, and as I was making it, I kept thinking, this is very narrow. So this is called something, Darling, Darling, Stay With Me, and I didn't write down any of the designers' names, so I will put it up here. Darling, Darling, Stay With Me shawl. and it's a very ruffly and an interestingly shaped crescent. And it was originally supposed to be in a solid color, just one solid color, and I wanted to use this blue. I don't know why I was just stuck on using this blue, but I knew I didn't have enough, so I went ahead and striped it with, let's see, so let's slow down. This solid blue is from 3 Irish girls, and I don't think they use this base anymore, but it was their Beacon sock, I think it was called. So it's a heavier weight fingering, but not quite a sport. And it's I didn't have a full skein because I used this blue in some socks, so I knew I was gonna have to supplement with something. So what I did was supplement with Knit Picks Hawthorne, which is a fingering weight, a little bit of a heavier fingering weight than say their Stroll, but not quite as heavy as this Beacon. So it kind of falls somewhere in between those. And this was one of their speckled colorways, and oh, I can't remember the color. I want to say that this is blueberry. So I did it. It's very interesting construction on this, and I think that's why I kept doing that, even though I knew it wasn't going to be a size that I liked. But this, you know, instead of a normal garter tab that's about this big, this was it's not really a garter tab, but in a sense, that's what this function was. And then she's got these increases that are really interesting there. And in the solid shawl, you don't really see the increases, but because I did stripe it, the increases are much more prominent. And I like that. I think it came out, I actually like how this looks. It's just not my size. Now, the other interesting thing is this edge here is a crocheted edge, which was really, really fun, combining knitting and crochet on the same project. I had a really good time, but my dear Lord in heaven, I think it was 621 stitches on the final after you're done knitting, and then that's how many stitches you've got to bind off. And oh my God, it took forever. It took forever. I watched an entire movie. I put it on my Instagram. I can't remember which movie I was watching, but these 2 white things took me almost 3 hours. It was crazy. But again, I think that even if I block this to get a bigger, you know, stretch out of it, I don't think that it's gonna block out enough to make it any kind of size that I think I would like. Kind of looks like a dickie. That's my bib. But if I do wear this, it would be as a scarf, because it's not shawl, and now, you know me, I like to wear my shawls over my shoulder. So this would be a scarf. But I don't even know that I would wear it, because this is too frilly for me. This is too ruffly. It's not really my style. And this makes me look like I don't have a neck. My hair is having issues today. It's so fluffy. It's growing out, and I didn't straighten it at all this week, so the curls just kind of freaking out. Anyway, so I don't know that I will actually wear this. So that is all of my finished objects. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of knitting, and that includes starting new things. So let's move on to whips. And this whip I decided to start because I love this Skype pattern so much. The stitch pattern, I really loved it. I wanted to try it on something else, and I thought, well, it works really well blending colors. I want to see what it looks like in an advent calendar. Maybe I could write up a simple pattern for the upcoming advent season, when people are getting their advent calendars in the mail or in the shops or whatever. And so I decided to try to use that stitch pattern. And I have an old advent calendar from last year that was actually, I bought off of Etsy, and I'm gonna have to look up the name of the seller on Etsy because I don't remember. It was forever ago. But I never used it at the time because I've actually bought it after Advent. She still had some left in her shop, and they were, it was a little bit less expensive than had I bought it before Advent. So I went ahead and I purchased it, and I thought, well, I'm going to save it and I'm going to try to use that next Christmas. Well, obviously Christmas isn't here yet, but I wanted to try using the yarns in this Advent to write a pattern for this year's Advent season. So who knows how that's going to actually work out, but I did start the pattern, and I'm already on to I'm about to start my 4th color. And some yarn dyers that make Advent calendars, sorry, I got some tangly stuff here. Some dyers, when they do Advents, they kind of have a theme, and sometimes their colors are like gradients, or they're in the same kind of family, and they all mean something to one another. You know, it's all relative. And then there's other dyers like this particular one that the colors are all completely different, and they don't necessarily, what happened here? They don't necessarily go together in any kind of particular order. So before I show you the project, I'm not going to talk about the project too much because I am hoping to publish something soon, but it is involving this Skype thing. So far these are my first 3 colors, and you can tell they don't necessarily go together. Oh my God, this orange just kind of went all over, and this yellow went all over the place. This was color number 1, and it's actually much more neon than this. This kind of looks pastel here, but it's very neon green. And then this is very, very, I dropped it. I'm not picking it up. This is my 2nd color, and it's very pale, almost there, baby pastel colors, just light purples, pinks, blues, yellows, greens. It's like a rainbow, but super, super pale. So these two together, very stark contrast. And then the 3rd color is this mustardy yellow here, and they don't go together in any kind of like, what is happening here? But I decided, and my daughter cheated and opened up the whole calendar square by square and was like, Mom, you need to order these in a different order than what they said. It's okay, you could do it. And I'm like, yeah, I know I can, but I kind of want to use it in the order that they gave them to me, because that's how most people are going to be doing their Advents, is doing it, opening it as they go. I know that some people will wait till the end of Christmas, and then after they've opened all their boxes, or maybe even at the beginning of Advent, as soon as they get it, they'll rearrange the colors. But I think for the most part, a lot of people like doing it as the colors come out. So I wanted to see what this is going to look like using that Skype pattern to play with the colors. So far this is what I've got, and this here is going to be, it wants to roll up, and kind of like how I was explaining that cowl where I block it, and I wanted to see if blocking it folded the opposite way in a folded position will help flatten that out and stop its tendency to want to curl. But anyway, so I started with the color by itself, then I blended it, and then the 2nd color is by itself for a short bit, then I blended the 3rd color, and then here's the 3rd color by itself, and now I'm going to blend the 3rd color with the 4th color. And it's a beautiful color, but it does not go with this yellow. I'm like, what the heck? What is this? So, I don't know. And this is, it actually looks quite narrow, but it is going to be a shawl. It's not a scarf. But it's got, I mentioned this stitch pattern, even though it's a slip stitch pattern, has quite a bit of stretch to it. So I'll be able to get another inch or so out of it for width when I'm blocking it. So, and I didn't want it super big. I wanted it more long than big. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I am about to start day 4 and I haven't peeked to see what day 5 is. My daughter actually is very much like me. She doesn't really care for yellow too much. That's her least favorite color. It's my least favorite color. So she said every other color in this box is something I'm gonna like. So I'm super excited, but I haven't looked at them myself. I really am keeping this a mystery to myself. But that is my other whip, or my first whip that I'm showing you. Now my second whip, and of course I've got tons and tons and tons of whips just hiding in bags and boxes and bins all over, but these are the ones I'm currently working on. And I really do want to get more, I don't know what the word is. I want to buckle down and start working down on these, start working my whip count down. I really need to finish my design that I was doing for the Avi Kaplan song Other Side, the real pretty two-toned gray yak yarn that I was using. I really need to buckle down and get that finished. I don't know. But anyway, back to what I'm doing right now. I had shown you all a while back, months and months ago, a book that I had gotten called In the Footsteps of Sheep. And this was by Debbie Zawinski. Beautiful book. And I believe I'd shown you, there was one, there's socks in here. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 pairs of socks. She's traveling around through Scotland, kind of camping and walking and just bike riding, and whenever she sees fluffs and tufts of fleece that have naturally been pulled off the sheep in that area by bushes and branches and whatnot, she'll pick those tufts up and collect them and then spin them. And she kind of keeps them together according to the region that she's in at that moment. And she's going all over Scotland. So the first sock, I made one, but I'm not a stranded sock person, and I couldn't bring myself to make the second sock. But this was the first one. It's beautiful, but I just don't love stranded knitting. I know, that's terrible. There are so many people who love it, and I just don't. At least, and especially not for socks. The reason why I didn't want to make the second one is because the first one came out too tight, and I didn't have it in me to rip all of that out. And I didn't want to make a second one because then it would just be too tight too. And I didn't have it in me to do the second sock. So I didn't, and I don't even know where the first sock went. It's hiding around here somewhere. Anyway, so I'm on chapter 2, and this is in an area that she says is Oban? I don't know. Let's see, does she say where this is at? Oban is often referred to as the gateway to the Western Isles because it is from here that so many familiar Calmac ferries run. My journey will start from Oban to South Uist. If you're familiar with Scotland, I'm not, but this is the area. And these are Scottish black-faced sheep, which are these handsome fellows right here. So she collected she collected fleece bits and fluffs along her way, and she, beautiful, beautiful book. She's camping. Look at how pretty he is, or she, or I don't know. I think it's a he. Anyway, so this one she calls Andrew Scottish Blackface Shepherd Socks. And she did it on a DK. She spun the yarn to a DK, but she made the socks for a man's size 11. And I don't know the sizing, if that's UK sizing, American sizing, I don't know how that works, but she says man size 11 feet large. She gives the needle size and all of that, and obviously I'm not using the same yarns that she's using. I'm not even using the same type of wool fiber. I'm just using what I have, and she called for a DK. I have DK, but most of it is colored, and these socks have some beautiful cables along the side that I wanted to do. So I went ahead and used what I have, which is wool of the Andes. Now this is the first time I'm making socks that are not superwash and don't have nylon. So see how that goes. I'm really gonna have to get into the habit of hand washing my hand knitted socks. Most of the time they've been superwash with nylon, and I've just been throwing them in the washing machine and they come out fine. But you know, if I'm gonna start knitting socks that are not superwash, I better change my ways, change my evil ways. So I'm using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted, and this is the Lake Ice Heather colorway, which is sort of a gray with a blue hint to it. Really pale, really pretty. And I just finished, I had to figure out the stitch count, because she obviously, the pattern that she wrote was for a large man's foot, and I have an average woman's foot, so I had to change the stitch count. I think hers was, I think I changed it by 6 stitches. So that meant my ribbing is a little bit different. I do have the cables on both sides, the way that on both sides of the sock, the way that she does. But I had to change the ribbing up a little bit in the cuff so that it'll match the stitch count. So that is the only change that I'm making, and it's probably not going to be as long. I think she called for before the heel flap and gusset begins. I think she made a 7-inch sock. I don't know if I'm going to make them that long. I might only make them 5. Maybe 4, it just depends. I'm gonna have to, I haven't tried these on yet because it's on the 9-inch circular. This is my Chiaogu 9-inch, and it's a US 3, which I think is a 3.25 millimeter. So I've gotten this far, and I think it'll fit, but I haven't tried it on yet. But I'm super excited to get, I'm just now to where I'm starting the cables on either side, so I'm super excited. It's so pretty. I'm just thrilled with it so far, and it feels good. It's got good stretch and elasticity. It just goes right back. And like I said, I'm not used to this. I'm used to fingering weight superwash merino with nylon. So this is strange for me, and I'm really liking it. So definitely gonna finish these socks hopefully within the month. So by the time I podcast again, I should have a pair of socks. And so I'm just reading through this book super slow. Whenever I decide that I want to make another sock, I'll read that chapter and then I'll make that sock. So very interesting. I'm loving her story. I'm loving all her little anecdotes and reminiscences and the interactions with people and sheep and all kinds. It's just very well written, very interesting idea, and God bless her. She's out there in the inclement weather. She's camping, she's hiking, she's just out there on a whim because she wanted to do this, and she ended up with a beautiful book with a wonderful story inside, so, and beautiful patterns. So I'm really enjoying it, but it is a book that I am taking my time with. So since we are on books, I went through quite a few of them. actually. So let's start with the things that I listened to on audio. I finished reading Dead Ringer by MC Beaton, which was the most recent Agatha Raisin book from the Agatha Raisin series. It's a cozy murder mystery, amateur sleuth kind of thing, and I love it. I just love Agatha Raisin because she's so bitchy. She doesn't know what she wants. She's always whining, and then when somebody calls her out on it, she gets so cranky, and I love it. Very fun. Went through that one rather quickly. I find that I go through the cozy mysteries super quick because I just can't get enough of them. I love them. When I read mysteries, even, you know, Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, these cozy mysteries, I don't read them to try to figure them out necessarily. You know, sometimes I do have a kind of general thought of who it might be, but I don't really pay attention for clues and stuff like that and try to delve into the mystery myself. I just want to read it, and I just love cozy mysteries because they've got a lot of comedy in there and a lot of just silliness, and so I really enjoyed that one. The next audiobook that I read, and if I would recommend it, I do recommend it, but it is, oh, it tugs at the heartstrings. It's beautifully written, beautifully translated, because I believe it's translated from Japanese. I think the author is Japanese. Hiro Arikawa. And the book is called The Cat Chronicles, and it follows a series of events in a man's life through the eyes of a cat. Beautiful story. Beautiful. It's kind of long. And at first I thought, oh, this is just, I don't want to read this. I don't want to listen to this. It's just not really pulling me in. But I would say within about 15 minutes, I was like, found myself just really interested on this cat's perspective of this man's life. So it was so good. But, you know, if you do read it, fair warning, you might need some tissues. So again, The Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. Loved it. And then because I decided that I read too much fluff and maybe I should try breaking out into some actual must-read type books, you know. So I went and I looked on Google and I put in must-read books for 2019. And I found a whole list of them, and one of them on there was a book called Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and I know that came out, I believe, in the 80s. I remember hearing about it, and it just didn't seem like it was my kind of thing, and I did listen to that one. It was really good. I wouldn't say it was my favorite book of all time or anything like that, not anywhere near it. It was very interesting, and I think that it's one of those books that, even though it was written decades ago, that I think that there are still some things that are relevant in today's society. So it was a really good read, and I'm surprised that I wasn't forced to read this in high school, actually. I know that a lot of people did have to read it in high school. I never did, so it was really interesting. I really enjoyed Fahrenheit 451. So then also from that list of must-reads 2019 per Google, it said All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I think I got maybe 15-20 minutes into it, and I wasn't into it. I wasn't even paying attention to it. I found my mind wandering. I was focused on other things. It just didn't draw me in enough to want to pay attention. Not like The Cat Chronicles, where at first I thought, no, and then before you knew it, I was just sucked right in. This one, it just didn't grab me, so I didn't finish it at all. I went ahead and returned it. I use Hoopla for and Overdrive from my library, my local library, so that's where I was listening to that. So no, I went ahead and returned that and checked that one off my didn't care for it list. So what I'm listening to now is another amateur sleuth murder mystery kind of thing. And this is by Carola Dunn, and this is the 19th book in the series. It's the Daisy Dalrymple series, and this one is called Anthem for a Doomed Youth. And again, it's a cozy mystery, and I love them. And I especially love this one. Actually, this is another reason why I like the Agatha Raisin ones, because whoever they've gotten to read those audiobooks, they've found the perfect voices, and they can change their voices. It doesn't matter which character, you know that it's a completely different character. The voices, the accents, everything is each character is different, and they're also spot on, and I just really, really enjoy it. So I'm in the middle of that one right now. Very much enjoying it. I don't know what I'm going to listen to after that, but we don't need to plan too far in the head for that. I've got plenty on my to-do list. So then the next things to talk about are my Kindle, books on my Kindle. The last time I told you I was reading The Brief Haunting of Raspberry Hill by Jamie Marsman. It did end up being a sequel. I wasn't sure if it was a sequel. It's a sequel. It's some of the same characters are in it, but it's not following. They're not the main focus of this second book. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's kind of like the characters know each other. They're prominent in the book, but this follows a different main person in the second book. Really, really enjoyed that one. It had to do with ghosts and stuff. So, you know me, I love a good ghost story. And while this wasn't, I wouldn't say a really good ghost story, it did have some ghosty elements, and I really enjoyed it. That on top of it being a mystery. It wasn't a murder mystery, but it was a mystery. So it was really, really fun. Speaking of murder mystery, the book that I read on Kindle after that was by Betty Hechtman, and this was a crochet. I keep grabbing things. It was a crochet amateur sleuth book. I think it's Crochet Mysteries is what the series is called. And this one was called On the Hook, and it was number 12 in the series. I like this one. This one is just so off the wall, and you kind of listen. I'm listening to it. The thing about these amateur sleuth mysteries is a lot of times there's always a cop involved somewhere, but this cop is just a bumbling doofus and can't figure out why he's even a cop, because he never figures anything out. It's this amateur person. They make me laugh, and I always see, because I've been a 911 operator for most of my life. I just think a cop would never do that. A cop would never say that. That would never happen. But I listen to these books, or I read these books anyway, and I just have so much fun with them. So I really enjoyed this one. She is a crocheter who works in a bookstore that happens to sell yarn as well. So it's got all of the elements that I love: reading, crocheting, yarn, murder, a little bit of silly comedy. So I really, really, really enjoyed that one. And then after that, I decided to try something different. I found an actual physical paperback book at Goodwill, and then I found out that it was part of a series. Now the author is Amy Carter, and the first book that I got is actually number 1, but she did some Kindle only novellas that kind of fall in between some of the books, and the first novella is before the number 1 book, so they have it listed. I go to Fantastic Fiction. I think it's I always type .com, but it always takes me to, I think it's .co.uk or something. Anyway, Fantastic Fiction. I go there, put in an author, and then I find out all about the books they've written. So I went and looked up Amy Carter, found out that she did some Kindle novellas in between the novels. And so this one is listed as 0.05. So it's called The Goddess Queen. And the reason why I even bothered picking this book up in the first place at Goodwill was because it said something about Greek mythology. So I did some research, and yes, the characters are from Greek mythology. Now, having read The Goddess Queen on my Kindle. It was super short, but already I can tell she's not following any of the actual mythological details other than their names and some of their characteristics, but for the most part their backgrounds and all of their interactions and their relations to one another aren't what I know or what I have read. I say I know like I'm a goddess, like I know anything about Greek mythology for real. But anyway, so she's not following anything so far that is based on written mythology, just the characters happen to be kings and queens of gods and goddesses, and they have immortal powers and all of this, but their backstories don't match up to what I've learned about Greek mythology. But it's still fun. It's super teen romantic fluff, and it's again one of those sweet ones. So that was The Goddess Queen. That was the last thing that I've read on my Kindle. So The Goddess Test is the actual book that I got from Goodwill for like $1. And there's her name, Amy Carter. So I'm actually almost done with this. It goes by super quick because it's super easy to read. Again, it's like young adult romantic fluff. There's no real hard thinking here, and it's nice to just kind of, you know, read a chapter or two before bed and just kind of zonk out. No heavy thinking right before bed. Excuse me. TV, I just binge watched all 4 seasons of The Librarian. I love Noah Wyle. He's kind of underrated. I really liked him back when he was in, I think he was in ER, when it first came out ages ago. He was so young and handsome. And then I saw him in some actual full-length movies called The Librarian, and it's just really corny, you know, save the world's behind the scenes kind of secret society kind of thing, and it's all based on history and knowledge and stuff. And there's this big library that he's the keeper of. So there was, I think, 3 movies back in the mid-90s, early 90s, and I really liked them, but that's all there were. And then I come to find out that there were 4 seasons of a TV show called The Librarians, where he's basically training and learning about his successors. He's teaching them and stuff, and there's 4 seasons. I binge watched all of them, and I really enjoyed them because I do love Noah Wyle. So yeah, that is all that I have. Enjoy your time knitting, reading, crocheting, yarny stuff, any kind of crafting, and enjoy time with family and friends. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.